And now we are finally here. After the checkered flag falls on Sunday night, we're going to know the NASCAR Cup Series Playoffs. We're going to know all 16, the 13 current winners, and those who make it in on points or a win this weekend. So I want to look at all of these drivers and a couple more that might be wild cards and see who has the best chance of making up NASCAR's postseason. So let's get right on into it. We're going to go in the order of the point standings, so we'll start out with Martin Truex Jr., who at this moment is 58 points above the cut line. It's pretty simple for Truex. If anyone below Chris Buescher, the current man 16th in points, does not win, he simply needs to start the race. No stage points, no nothing else. 55 points is the most you can make up without a win due to stage points and finishing position being second, the highest you can be without a win, obviously. And we'll say somebody underneath Chris Buescher wins, like Bubba Wallace, Ross Chastain, Kyle Busch, whoever it might be. Well, Truex needs to finish 19th or higher without any stage points to lock in no matter what else happens. If he gets stage points, that number goes up by as many points as he gets. So if he gets 3 stage points in the first one, then he gets, say, 6 more, well, then he just needs to finish 28th to qualify. All right, so it's pretty easy when it comes to that. The problem is that no matter which way you cut it, Martin Truex Jr. is ice cold. When you look at his last 5 races, the current 5 races of the next-gen era at Darlington, it's not pretty. His first 3 were DNFs, 24th, 31st, 31st. And the last 2 were 18th and 25th. He's run up front but can't get the finishes. Stage points will be big for him. And when you look at his last 5 races, it's not much better after Pocono. No finish above 24th. And 3 finishes off the lead lap. He has not had a top 10 at Darlington as well since his 4th in the 2021 Southern 500 back in the Gen 6. So, yes, more than likely, if there's no new winner, it's looking pretty good for MTJ. Let's shift over to MTJ's teammate, Ty Gibbs. Gibbs, at this time, is 39 points above the cut line. Pretty safe if there's no new winner. If anyone below Chris Buescher doesn't win, he just needs to finish 21st to lock it on up. He needs to score 38 points to lock in no matter what. You only can score 35 for a second place finish, so a second and 3 stage points would lock him in. Or if he wins both of the stages, well, then all he'd have to do is, basically finish 18th or so. Not too bad, but still not enough for comfort. When you look at Ty Gibbs, it's a bit of a different story than his teammate. Ty Gibbs was really cold as well in his last 5 races from Pocono, Indy, and Richmond. 2 races that were off the lead lap, a DNF at Pocono. Engine issues have plagued this team throughout the year, but his last 2 runs and the momentum coming from them is pretty good. A 3rd at Michigan, a 5th at Daytona, and overall this 54 team looks like it's kind of gathering the pace that it had early on in the 2024 season. When you look at his 4 career starts at Darlington, it's a little hit or miss. His first 3 were 15th, 16th, and 21st. Not really all that pretty, and if nothing crazy happens, which is asking for a lot in the Southern 500, that should be able to get him in. But he does have a second place finish in the previous Darlington race, and he was charging at the end of that one, so maybe he figured something out. Either way, Ty Gibbs, I think, is pretty safe, but a lot could go wrong for him still. And even if not that much goes wrong for him, if it goes right for everybody else, he's in trouble. And then you got 16th, Chris Buescher. Buescher is plus 21, which is a pretty good gap, one of the bigger ones of the season when it comes to the bubble, but he is the man on the bubble. If there's no new winners below him, he needs to just finish 3rd or better to lock in no matter what, or finish within 20 spots of Bubba Wallace, and also within about 27 spots of Ross Chastain. He has, again, been another driver who has just hemorrhaged points throughout the season, and there's multiple times, including the last time they raced at Darlington, that he can point to and say that he should have won. While finishing 30th in that race, he led 21 laps and looked well on his way to victory towards the end. Before that, a 3rd and a 10th were the finishes he had at this track, so he has been fairly solid throughout the last couple years, and while he hasn't been great in the last 5 races, he's been better actually than Ty Gibbs and Martin Truex Jr. This team just needs to deliver and not screw it up for themselves, and they'll be in the playoffs. The first man out of the playoffs as of now is Bubba Wallace, who is obviously 21 out. He needs to beat Chris Buescher by 21 to 22 points or spots during this race, or just plainly win, because he's not going to catch the other guys unless he has a really, really good run. It's going to be rough for him to get in without a win, in all honesty. But when you look at how he's been in general at Darlington and in his last couple races, Bubba Wallace and this 23 team have the speed to win. 4 straight top 10s at Darlington, and on top of that, 4 of his last 5 races have been top 10s, including 2 top 5s and 3 top 6 finishes. He's been leading laps in the last 4 races, and he actually has led a couple laps at Darlington as well. If Toyota brings him a good and fast machine, Bubba Wallace could very easily win his way into the playoffs, and he has the speed right now compared to previous years to compete further than he ever has. And the last one that can get in off of points is Ross Chastain. The Melon Man is the biggest long shot to make the playoffs as he trails the cut line by 27 points. He needs to beat Buescher by 28 points or spots, beat Bubba by about 7, and also be really, really good at that, and make sure nobody else behind him wins. To me, he really has to win to get in. There's just too many to pass and too many different alternative ways that things could happen that I just don't think points are realistic. Now, while his finishes haven't been good at Darlington, in the next-gen era, he's had 3 DNFs, he has led a lot, and he has been very fast, which is better than he's been in his last 5 races, with 4 finishes of 12th or worse, including a DNF. But Ross Chastain is another one who has hemorrhaged points all year, been in contention to win, and not gotten the finishes to show for it. If this team can just deliver on what they're supposed to be, they can be in the playoffs with a victory. And then there's a couple drivers I just briefly want to touch on. These guys have to win to get in. First off, everyone will look at Kyle Busch. RCR's been faster since the Olympic break, but Busch has only 1 top 10 in his last 6 Darlington races, and it's not enough data when it comes to these RCR cars to say whether or not they're actually good or if it's just a brief flare-up. Chase Briscoe, on the other hand, is someone I'm interested in. He finished 5th in May, and he's won in the Xfinity Series here, but he's been 12th or worse in all 6 of his starts outside of that 5th place in May at Darlington. If Stewart-Haas Racing is going to bring the speed they had in the spring, I can see him competing. Same with Josh Berry, fast in May, finished up front. Is it a one-off? That's my big question for Berry and the 4 team. Eric Jones is one people look at because he's won here before. His first 6 starts were finishes of 8th or better. He won in 2022. He has 2 top 10s in his last 5 starts here. And the moral of this is that if Legacy just gives him a decent to good car, he can compete for the win. If they give him a normal Legacy car, he has no shot. And then there's Austin Dillon. Austin Dillon has pop-up runs at Darlington. He's always, when he runs well, running 5th to 8th on his good runs, and he can maybe pop up for a top 5. He's a dark horse, but this team needs to deliver like they did in Richmond. But with that, I want to pass it on to you. What 3 drivers make up the remaining spots in the playoffs? Let me know down in the comments below. And while you're at it, leave a like on this video, share this video, and subscribe to this channel for more great and fun NASCAR content. Thank you so much to all my channel members for your continued support. And until next time, have a good one.